Hey, what's up, my fellow miners? It's PVT Birch here. Today I just wanted to start a new series that's a little bit more involved than the usual Frontier Mine speed runs or first chrono mine tickets. Today I wanted to start a new series going over combos. We're going to start out simple and explain what a combo is and how they work. Today we're going to cover the simplest combos. Not only the simplest, but the original combo. If you guessed Sue Turner, then you guessed right. Of course, now there's more than one version of this combo nowadays, and we will cover them all. Not only are we going to cover what these combos are, but we're going to cover how you can calculate them and know which combo is going to be more efficient per use case scenario, whether that be on the main continents where their multipliers are exactly what you see in the super manager headquarters, or if you move over to a elemental mine, or using them in ever deep mines that have elements in them, or the chrono mine, just depending on where you're going to be at, which ones are more efficient and how you can calculate those. So the first thing we're going to cover is going to be the stockpilers themselves, and as we cover these, we're going to cover them individually and how they work on their own before we just jump into how they work together with the instant cash manager. So the stockpilers are going to be Ranger Sue, who is of the rare color. Then you have Archibald, who is of epic, and then King Auric, who is of legendary. All three of these super managers do the same things essentially, barring a few small tweaks in time and their multipliers. King Auric, being the legendary super manager, has a special element to him that Sue and Archie do not have, that we will get to that shortly, so we're not going to just jump ahead with that. So the job of the stockpiler is to mine at the shaft's current rate and multiply by the super manager's multiplier for the duration of the active effect. So during the active effect, the worker or workers have an infinite capacity, so they're not having to travel back and forth once they reach their limit. In fact, during the super manager's effect, the workers have infinite capacity, so technically they do not reach a limit. Their limit is reached at the end of the active effect, or when the super manager's time runs out. I do have a couple of disclosures for this video. First and foremost, in these examples, I will be using my current super manager's levels and ranks to explain how they work. So if the multipliers don't add up to what yours are, that's fine. You would just replace them with your multipliers. The second part is that what to expect in these numbers, you should know that they are approximations. For the sake of simplicity, we're going to be using the straight numbers that we see on the screens. And saying that the numbers that we get from the math and the numbers that we will see on the screen after the stockpiler has dropped the resources in the crate, they're going to differ a little bit due to the factors that were built into the game that would extremely overcomplicate this process. So we're going to call it the simple math. The simple math that we will be covering will be enough to show you how to determine which super managers to combo with each other to get the most use out of. So there's going to be kind of three things that we go over that this is going to be teaching us. So first and foremost, the purpose of this is A, to teach you the uses, the simple uses of these super managers. B, to teach you how to use combos in general. And C, how to put the correct super managers together to get the most cash outputs out of the highest multipliers. In this as well, since this is real world testing with my super managers, it's testing within my own mainland mines, where I'm currently at mainland mine 233. For this example, I only opened one shaft, and I went ahead and maxed shaft 1, and I maxed the elevator and warehouse. The elevator and warehouse levels do not play into what's going to happen with these stockpiles, with the instant cash outputs, or once we get to the combos, how they play with the combos. Those two items do not impact those numbers whatsoever. I just did that for simplicity for myself. Now that we've got the disclosures out of the way of what to know is going on both with the math and with real world testing with my current statistics. To start, there are going to be two different sets of information that we're going to pay attention to on this screen here. Those are going to be the mining speed and the number of miners. The rest of the information that we will need will come from the Super Manager stats. So if you notice, when we add Sue into Mineshaft 1, the mining speed changes. Not the miners, but the mining speed changes. Not because of Sue's multiplier, but because of her passive effects. Sue has this passive effect of mine income factor that directly influences the mining speed. So now that we have her placed in the mine, we can use her new mining speed and we can determine roughly how much she will drop in the crate. So as you can see, after adding Sue to the shaft, the mining speed increased from 36.9 AL per second to 64.4 AL per second. So to determine how much Sue is going to drop in the crate, we need 4 pieces of information. We need the number of miners and mining speed, which I referred to earlier on the empty shaft. And then on the Super Manager screen, we need the active multiplier and the active runtime. We basically multiply all of these together and you get the answer. But for the sake of understanding how you get to the final figure, we're going to break it down in the order that the game multiplies it. Because if you're nerding out on this as much as I am, you already know that order of operations says that it doesn't matter what order, as long as it's multiplication or division, you do it in order from left to right. We can just do all of them together. But again, knowing how we get from point A to point B will help make the process make sense. So to begin, we're going to take the mining speed and multiply by Sue's active multiplier. This number will now be the new mining speed when Sue is active. So what that would be the 64.4 AL per second multiplied by Sue's multiplier, which is 17.72. That then comes out to 1.141 AM. That would be the new mining speed. So then we take the new mining speed and we multiply it by the active runtime, which in this case for Sue is 60 seconds. So once we multiply those two numbers, we get 68.46 AM. Now, that 68.46 AM is in reference to how much one worker is carrying. So we've already established that one of the pieces of the puzzle we needed was how many workers were in the mine shaft. We know that this has 6 workers in it, so now we're going to multiply the 68.46 by 6 miners. That final number comes out to 410.76 AM. Now, that is pretty close to what's going to be dropped into the crate. Again, this is an approximation. We're going to get outside of some of the factors that were built into the game, so it's not going to be perfect. So not only is this an approximation, but this is going to be also if Sue has absolutely no equipment, no support managers. This is just Sue running all on her own. In all honesty, when you look at how much the shaft rate is in the beginning, and then you look at how much the new shaft rate is once Sue's active is taken into account with the 1.141 AM, it really only multiplied it by 410. So it doesn't seem like a bunch, but honestly, it really is, because as you'll learn later through this video, that's going to be multiplied. And then from a simple combo, it's going to be multiplied once, but as you learn a little bit more about combos and you move to some more complex combos, that number can be multiplied 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So learning these things and how they work is fairly important. Now that we've covered Ranger Sue, let's move on to Archibald, who does the exact same thing. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on him because other than the fact that his active multiplier when maxed out versus Sue's is higher, the only difference is that he has an extra 10 seconds of runtime, which doesn't sound like a lot, but really it plays a pretty big factor. So the formula works exactly the same way. It's going to be the mining speed with the Super Manager in the mine multiplied by Archie's active multiplier. So that's going to be 73.4 AL is the mining speed with Archie in the shaft, multiplied by his active multiplier, which is 25.58 and it comes out to 1.877 AM. And of course, as we discussed before, that's per second per one worker. So we're going to multiply it by his runtime, which is 70 seconds, and that's going to come out to 131.39 AM. Again, that's one worker. We know that there's 6 workers in this mine on a maxed out shaft level. So once we multiply it by the 6 miners, it comes out to 788.34 AM. Again, that's an approximation of how much should be dropped into the shaft, into the crate after his runtime. Now, it's time to address King Auric. He functions the same way as Sue and Archie in every way, except for the fact that he has a longer runtime. That's a given. That's a normal tweak between the rare, epic, and legendary versions of the Stockpiler and Super Manager. So that's not really anything special. The thing that makes him special is that the number of workers in his shaft are not determined by the mine shaft's level. Sue and Archie's workers are determined by the mine shaft's level. Where a level 1 mine shaft only has 1 worker, a level 10 shaft has 2 workers, and fast forward to a maxed out level 800 shaft has 6 workers. King Auric's description tells us that he has 4 dwarves or workers that automatically show up upon activation. But if you add 4 more super managers that have the light element, you can have 8 dwarves. So each additional light super manager adds 1 dwarf, and you can have a maximum of 8. So this changes the dynamics a little bit with not having to have the mine shaft level restrict your number of workers. Assuming you have enough shafts unlocked, or you have enough light super managers that you can dictate the number of workers that you have on your own. So one small quirk about King Auric's active is that the dwarves do not work until the active time reaches 0. They start walking back towards the crate about 2 to 3 seconds left on the clock, where Ranger Sue and Archie's workers work until the timer reaches 0. So be aware of that when you're running this particular manager. So other than these small little things, everything works the same. You still work the rest of the formula the same as you would for Sue and Archie. Now, for mine, I don't have a passive ability unlocked on King Auric that would affect the mining speed once I get him to rank 5, level 50 promoted. I will unlock his mine income factor, which will then affect that mining speed as it does with Archie and Sue. But the empty mine shaft 1 and the mine shaft 1 that has Auric placed in it look identical because there is no passive ability that affects that mining speed. So we're going to take the mining speed, multiply it by his active multiplier. That comes out to 777.114 AL cash. King Auric's runtime is 90 seconds, which is, like we said, longer because he is the legendary version. So with that comes out to 69.94 AM cash. And again, that's per worker. So the first iteration we will now add we will not add any additional light super managers. So that means he will only have 4 workers in the shaft. So multiplying that total by the 4 workers, we get 279.76 AM, which is less than both Sue and Archie. Now, if we back up on our formula just a little bit, and we add 8 workers because we've added the additional 4 light super managers, that final total then goes from 279.76 AM to 559.52 AM. So adding the additional light managers makes a considerable difference. Literally, it doubles the output because we're doubling the number of workers. Now, when you compare all 3 numbers up next to each other of mine for Sue, Archibald, and King Auric, Archibald wins. Archie's number is better because I don't have King Auric high enough up to take over and win. So in an all-out, who's going to stack the most cash up per run, for me, is going to be Archie. So now that we've covered the stockpilers, this has taken a little bit more time than I originally anticipated, so I'm going to have to break this up into a couple different parts. So we're going to end the video here. So far, what we've learned is who the stockpilers are, how they function, and how to get an approximation on what kind of cash value they're going to put into the crate. So in the next video, we will cover the instant cash managers that go with the stockpilers that we've previewed today for the original combos, like Sue Turner, Sue Cliff, Archie Turner, Archery Cliff, Oric Turner, Oric Cliff, and figure out how to come up with what they put into their piggy banks and then multiply. So the next video, I'm hoping that what we'll be able to do is fit in both the instant cash managers and then put the stockpile managers and instant cash managers together to make one video or one part to include instant cash managers and how they work as a combo. So don't forget that we do this for fun. If you like this kind of content, let me know in the comments. Leave a like. Give a subscribe so you know when the next video comes out. Don't forget to also jump over onto our Discord channel, where there is quite the wealth of knowledge. Plenty of players in there who've been playing for many years and can teach you just about anything you want to know. So leave a like, leave a subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.